Today, we become legends.
So this rant might seem a little out of left field to some of you, but Jing Wei in Smite 2 right now is perhaps the most frustrating god to play against of all time. She might even eclipse Aladdin in that regard, which is a feat in itself. Ever since Jing's introduction in September, she's kind of been a problem. She was uncontested the best ADC for a while, then Cernunnos started to compete with her a bit, but he got nerfed while Jing mostly dodged nerfs, only receiving a few small things, and remained the top ADC basically until Ula got added. And even then, Jing is arguably as strong as Ula in my opinion. They just do very different things. Even in Smite 1, Jing Wei was never a god I enjoyed playing into. She's one of the safest gods in the game and probably the safest ADC outright, with the only real competition for that spot coming from Heimdall when played well. She doesn't care about being poked out because she can just fly back to lane within seconds and miss almost no farm even if she's playing badly and losing the trades. She can dash out of knockups, which makes her ridiculous in some matchups, but even without knockups, her dash goes insanely far when used from her 1. Oh, and in case that wasn't enough, her ultimate is a straight up get out of jail free card for almost any danger she might face. Especially so in Smite 2 since they added the second airstrike that allows her to potentially reposition and juke out enemies on a gank. Speaking of +1 changes, another thing Jing Wei got in Smite 2 was multiple charges on her too, which while cool is completely and utterly game breaking once she has a few items online. This also became an auto attack reset in Smite 2, which again, really cool, that adds some skill expression and decision making to her gameplay in fights. Better AA cancels means better burst, and you can cancel multiple times for insane burst at the cost of the total amount of shots, since you'll overwrite some of the previous shots by using another charge of the 2. All of this is really cool actually, but incredibly imbalanced, especially when you take into account that Jing Wei's 2 auto attacks are AoE and pretty much unmissable. This leads to a situation where Jing can pretty much just pick a target and say they die in the late game, because you don't have to worry about actually hitting auto attacks anymore, and you also don't have to worry about having enough time to shred them down because of the AA cancel from the 2. Any squishy just gets deleted in 2 to 3 basic attacks, which can happen in well under a second if you AA cancel with the 2, all while being completely unmissable. It wouldn't be as frustrating if these were normal basic attacks that did splash damage when they hit, rather than straight up AoE basic attacks. At least then you would have to hit the target normally, but then splash AoE damage afterwards. The way they currently are though, you can throw out attacks that will completely miss for any other ADC and still hit them, because of Jing's 2, which of course now has an absolute maximum of 12 shots back to back thanks to the charge mechanic. Usually it's more like 9 shots, but when you kill a backliner or full damage jungler in 2 to 3 shots, you have enough fuel there to annihilate every damage dealer on the enemy team and then some. The AoE factor of this basically turns Jing Wei into a hyper-safe ranged version of an ulting back Asura, which is just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, just take a look at these clips and tell me there's not something very wrong there.
I've never seen these numbers on
Guys.
Bro,
Yeah.
actually, that's not true.
Never see 1.4k, I think that's the problem.
Go, go!
What is this shit like?
Yeah, the poor mid laner is hitting you for 340 with one ability. You're hitting him for 500 with one AA.
I've been on the ranked grind lately, and while I personally ban Jing Wei, a lot of my other teammates don't, and when she gets through, I see her picked in mid and solo, just because she's the easiest way for a decent player to 1v5 a free win if they think they can't rely on their team. Jing Wei was already strong, but the recent itemization buffs for ADCs have just made it even more ridiculous. Kin size got buffed, which is of course nice. Crit across the board got buffed not too long ago, which is of course great for Jing Wei, given the built-in crit chance on her too. And if that wasn't enough, the new starter item, Sharpshooter's Arrow, is one of the most bloated and obviously overpowered items we've ever seen in Smite 2. 60 basic attack power, 10% attack speed, 15% life deal, 15% crit chance, and 20% bonus basic attack damage to far range enemies, which of course stacks with crit and is even easier for Jing Wei to use, since other ADCs might sometimes have trouble hitting basic attacks at max range. Jing Wei has no such issue, as we previously discussed, with her 2 making her auto attacks almost impossible to miss. This item just has every stat an ADC could possibly want. In Smite 2, there was a clear and concerted effort to make it so items had a clear purpose and trade-off. Smite 1 in the later years, thanks to power creep, ended up in a situation where most items had almost every stat a certain role could want. With Smite 2, they reined that in substantially, with most items now having specific stats and trade-offs. If you want more cooldown reduction, you might have to sacrifice intelligence or lifesteal to get that. If you want more protections, you might have to sacrifice cooldown or a powerful active effect to get that, etc. This item just flies in the face of that whole philosophy and feels like a late-stage Smite 1 item that they just dropped into Smite 2 without thinking. All 4 of the stats on this item are absolutely ideal for any ADC, and it's so much better than the other 2 starters, it's not even funny. This item just should not have lifesteal on it at the very least, and it could even lose the attack speed as well and probably still be competitive with the other ADC starters. It's simply that ridiculous. The combination of this new item, crit buffs, kin size, and the Linnean bow as well has just catapulted Jingwei from already one of the best ADCs in the game to just outright ridiculous. Playing against this god, you're basically on a clock, and if you don't put her in the ground and win by 25 minutes, you probably just lost if the Jingwei player is good, which is one of the most frustrating playstyles imaginable. Playing a good early game and getting map control, grabbing all the objectives, even shutting down Jingwei in the lane is all for nothing when she eventually just gets near full build and level 20 and wins the game anyway. I'm being hyperbolic here, of course. You can win against this god if you play well, are coordinated, and force the issue early on in the match before she can get online, but more than any other god right now, Jingwei just feels like a ticking time bomb that wins the game for free past a certain point. Ula is also ridiculous right now, but at least Ula can only one-shot a single person and has to wait a few seconds for cooldowns. Jingwei can one-shot the entire backline almost instantaneously and has better tank shred than Ula as well, thanks to being a more traditional auto-attacker. Without great communication and coordination, there's almost nothing you can do against this god in the late game if she's being piloted by a decent player. But what do you guys think? Is Jingwei broken? Is the new starter item broken? Let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll catch you guys for another one later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.